The marble floor beneath my knees was cold enough to seep through my worn uniform, but I barely noticed anymore. My hands moved in practiced circles, scrubbing at a wine stain that had already surrendered to the chemical burn of bleach. The sharp scent made my eyes water, mixing with the lingering perfume of last night's party. Something floral and expensive that I could never afford even if I saved a year's wages. I was invisible here. That was the point. In the Romano estate, the help existed in the peripheral vision of the wealthy, acknowledged only when something went wrong. I'd learned that lesson 3 months ago when Mrs. Castellano, the head housekeeper, pulled me aside after my first day. "Keep your head down, your mouth shut, and your eyes on your work," she'd warned, her weathered fingers gripping my wrist hard enough to leave marks, especially when he's home. Everyone referred to Dante Romano that way, as if speaking his name might summon him like some dark fairy tale creature. I'd only seen him twice. Once from the third-floor hallway as he strode through the entrance hall below, surrounded by men in identical black suits who moved like shadows given form. The second time through the kitchen window as he climbed into a black SUV with windows so dark they seemed to swallow light. Both times I'd felt something primal whisper in my hindbrain. Predator. The morning stretched into afternoon, my knees aching as I moved from room to room. The Romano mansion wasn't just large. It was a statement of power wrapped in Renaissance architecture and modern security. Cameras nested in crown molding. Men with earpieces patrolled the gardens. Even the air felt watched. "Isabella!" Maria's whisper cut through my thoughts. She appeared in the doorway, her face pale beneath her olive complexion. "Mr. Romano's office, now. You need to bring fresh coffee." My stomach dropped. "Why me? You always—" "Just do it." Her eyes darted to the hallway. "And whatever you do, don't look directly at him. Don't speak unless spoken to." The coffee service sat waiting in the kitchen, already prepared on a silver tray that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My hands trembled slightly as I lifted it, the delicate china rattling like my nerves. Mrs. Castellano appeared, adjusting the placement of the sugar bowl with sharp, precise movements. "His office is in the west wing, third door on the left," she said without looking at me. "Knock twice. Wait. If he doesn't answer within 10 seconds, leave the tray outside and go." What if he does answer? Her eyes finally met mine, and I saw something that might have been pity. "Then pray you don't make any mistakes." The west wing hallway was different from the rest of the house. Darker wood, heavier doors, the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums. My footsteps were muffled by a carpet so thick my shoes disappeared into burgundy depths. 2 men flanked the hallway's entrance, not the elderly security guards who monitored the main gates, but younger men with cold eyes and bulges under their jackets that I tried not to think about. They watched me approach but didn't move, didn't speak. I felt their gaze track my progress like rifle scopes. Third door on the left, heavy oak with an iron handle that felt cool against my palm. I balanced the tray on one hip and knocked twice, the sound hollow and final. Silence. 5 seconds. 6. 7. Leave the tray. Walk away. 8. 9. Enter. The voice was deep, textured like smoke over gravel. It bypassed my ears and went straight to my spine, triggering every instinct that had kept my ancestors alive when things with teeth hunted in the dark. The handle turned easily. The door swung open on silent hinges. Dante Romano's office was a study in controlled chaos. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, filled with leather-bound volumes that looked actually read rather than decorative. A massive desk dominated the space, its surface covered in papers, tablets, and 3 different phones. But it was the man behind the desk who stole every bit of oxygen from my lungs. He was younger than I'd imagined, early 30s perhaps, with the kind of face that artists had been trying to capture since the Renaissance. Sharp jawline shadowed with deliberate stubble. Dark hair that fell across his forehead in a way that suggested he'd run his hands through it recently. Eyes so dark they were nearly black, currently focused on the document in his hand. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars that told stories I didn't want to know. No tie. The top 2 buttons undone, showing the hollow of his throat, and a hint of something that might have been a tattoo. Coffee. On the desk. I moved forward, hyper-aware of my own breathing, the slight rattle of china, the way my uniform suddenly felt too tight and too cheap. The tray found the only clear space on his desk. I began to arrange the cups with hands that had steadied through sheer force of will. That's when I noticed it. A folder. Cream-colored, expensive paper. Open just enough to show a photograph clipped to the top page. A man's face I recognized from the news 3 months ago. Missing, the headlines had said. Presumed dead came 2 weeks later. My hand slipped. The sugar bowl tipped, sending a cascade of white crystals across the open folder, across the photograph, across what looked like financial documents stamped with red letters I couldn't quite read before. Don't move, I froze. The sugar continued its slow scatter, individual grains catching light like tiny diamonds as they settled into the creases of the papers. Dante Romano stood. The movement was liquid, controlled, the way apex predators move when they've spotted prey. He came around the desk, and suddenly the office felt much smaller. He smelled like cedar and something darker. Gunpowder, maybe, or just danger-given scent. He stopped inches away, close enough that I could see the flecks of amber in his nearly black eyes. Close enough to count the days of stubble on his jaw. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body like standing too close to a fire. Look at me. Every instinct screamed to obey Mrs. Castellano's warning. Keep my eyes down. But his voice carried the weight of absolute authority, the kind that didn't expect to be denied. I looked up. His eyes held mine, searching for something. I felt pinned, displayed, every secret suddenly visible. One hand reached past me. I flinched before I could stop myself, and his fingers paused an inch from the folder. What's your name? His voice was quieter now, but no less commanding. Isabella. It came out as barely a whisper. Isabella Chen. Chen. He said it slowly, as if tasting the syllables. You're new. It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. 3 months, sir. And in 3 months, Isabella Chen, has no one taught you that curiosity in this house is... He paused, his gaze dropping to the ruined folder, then back to my face. Dangerous? I didn't mean... I wasn't trying to... The words tangled on my tongue. It was an accident. I'm sorry. Please, I need this job. I can't... Shh. The sound was almost gentle. His hand moved again, and this time I didn't flinch as his fingers brushed a strand of hair that had escaped my bun, tucking it behind my ear with a tenderness that seemed completely at odds with everything I'd heard about him. Accidents can be forgiven once. His touch lingered a moment too long, his fingers trailing down the curve of my jaw before falling away. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every nerve ending fired warnings that my brain couldn't quite interpret. Sir, I should clean... Leave it. He stepped back, creating space that my lungs desperately needed. Get out. I didn't need to be told twice. My legs carried me toward the door on autopilot, the tray forgotten, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. Isabella. I stopped, hand on the door handle. You have very expressive eyes. Did you know that? There was something in his voice I couldn't identify. I can see everything you're feeling. Fear, confusion, a pause. Attraction. Heat flooded my face. Don't lie to me. Ever. The command was absolute. I despise liars more than I despise traitors. At least traitors have the courage of their convictions. I turned slowly. He stood by his desk, one hand resting on the sugar-scattered folder, his expression unreadable in the afternoon light filtering through bulletproof windows. You may go. But Isabella? His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'll be seeing you again. Soon. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. I made it halfway down the hallway before my legs gave out. I pressed my back against the wall, sliding down until I sat on that plush burgundy carpet, my uniform bunched around my thighs, my breath coming in short gasps. What had just happened? One of the guards appeared, looking down at me with professional disinterest. You need to move. This area isn't for staff. I scrambled to my feet, mumbling apologies, and practically ran back toward the safety of the kitchen. Maria caught me at the servants' entrance, her eyes wide. "You're alive," she breathed. "Thank God. I heard... Someone said you spilled something in his office. Isabella, are you insane?" "It was an accident." My voice sounded strange, disconnected. "Accidents don't matter to men like him." Maria gripped my shoulders. "Listen to me. Stay away from Dante Romano, far away. He's not just dangerous, he's lethal. Do you understand?" I nodded, but even as I did, I could still feel the ghost of his fingers on my jaw, still hear the dark promise in his voice. "I'll be seeing you again, soon." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my cramped studio apartment above a laundromat in Queens, staring at cracks in the ceiling while police sirens wailed in the distance. My phone buzzed. A text from my roommate, Jenna, asking if I could cover her shift at the diner. I ignored it. Instead, I kept replaying those moments in his office, the way he moved, the intensity of his gaze. The folder I shouldn't have seen. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But underneath the fear coiled something else, something I didn't want to name. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Sleep well, Isabella. Dream of me." My heart stopped, then kicked into overdrive. How did he have my number? A second text appeared before I could process the first. "And if you tell anyone about what you saw in my office, you won't need to worry about dreaming ever again." The threat was clear, but it was the first message that haunted me as I finally drifted into restless sleep. Dream of me. As if I had any choice. The next morning arrived too quickly, dragging me from nightmares where dark eyes watched me from shadows and sugar scattered across photographs of dead men. I dressed in my spare uniform. The first still reeked of bleach and fear sweat, and braided my hair with fingers that hadn't quite stopped trembling. The subway ride to the Romano estate felt different. Every face seemed suspicious. Every glance felt weighted. When a man in a black coat boarded at my stop, I nearly bolted from the train. "You're being paranoid," I told myself. He was just making a point. Men like him make threats like breathing. But I couldn't shake the memory of his voice, the way those texts had appeared on my phone like he'd reached across the city to touch me. Mrs. Castellano was waiting when I arrived, her expression more severe than usual. "You're on laundry duty today, basement level. Stay there until I tell you otherwise." Relief flooded through me. The basement was as far from Dante Romano's office as geographically possible, while remaining in the same building. "Yes, ma'am." "And Isabella?" She caught my arm as I turned. "Whatever happened yesterday, forget it. Pretend it never occurred. Your life will be simpler, if only it were that easy." The basement laundry room was a cathedral of steam and soap, industrial washers humming like mechanical prayers. I lost myself in the rhythm of sorting, loading, folding. Whites separate from colors, delicates in mesh bags. Mr. Romano's shirts required special attention. Hand-washed, line-dried, pressed with military precision. His shirts. I held one up. White cotton so fine it was nearly translucent. It still carried his scent, cedar, and that darker note I couldn't identify. My fingers traced the collar where it would rest against his throat, and I felt heat crawl up my neck. "Stop it. He's dangerous. He threatened you." But danger, I was learning, had its own terrible magnetism. Well, the little maid who lived. I spun around, nearly dropping the shirt. A woman stood in the doorway, early 20s, blonde hair styled in waves that cost more than my rent, wearing a cream silk dress that probably cost more than my car. Her smile was sharp enough to cut. "I'm sorry. Can I help you?" I kept my voice neutral, respectful. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Help me? Oh, darling, no. I'm here to help you." She sauntered closer, heels clicking on concrete. "I'm Valentina Corsini. Perhaps Dante mentioned me?" He hadn't. "No, ma'am." "Ma'am." She tested the word like it was poisonous. "How quaint. Let me guess, you're the new plaything? The fresh face he's decided to fixate on this week?" My stomach twisted. "I don't know what you mean. I'm just a maid." "Right." Valentina circled me slowly, appraising. "That's what they all say at first." the waitress from Catalano's, the bartender from his club in Manhattan, the law student he picked up at some charity function. Her finger trailed along the washing machine's edge. Do you know what they all have in common? I didn't want to know. Ma'am, I really need to... They're all gone now. She stopped directly in front of me, her perfume cloying and sweet. Dante gets bored. And when he's bored, well, people tend to disappear from his life, sometimes literally. The threat hung between us like smoke. I haven't done anything, I said, hating how my voice shook. I spilled sugar, that's all. Sugar. Valentina's laugh was uglier this time. Is that what we're calling it? Listen, I'm going to give you advice because unlike Dante, I'm actually capable of mercy. Run. Quit this job. Move to another state if you have to. Because if you stay... She leaned in close, her breath hot against my ear. You'll either end up broken or buried. Those are the only two options with men like him. She pulled back, her smile restored to its polished perfection. Consider yourself warned, Isabella Chen. She knew my name. Of course she did. Valentina left in a cloud of expensive perfume and implied violence. I stood among the laundry, my hands clutching Dante's shirt hard enough to wrinkle the pristine fabric, my mind racing. Run, she'd said. Every logical cell in my brain agreed. But I needed this job. More than that. I needed the money from this job. My mother's treatments weren't getting cheaper, and the clinic in New Jersey didn't accept good intentions as payment. I was trapped by economics and biology, pinned between impossible choices. The day crawled past. I stayed in the basement until Maria came to find me at dinner time, her expression odd. You're wanted upstairs. Where? Please not his office. Please not. The dining room. Mr. Romano is having dinner with... guests. They need someone to serve. Where's Claudia? Or Sophia? They always... He asked for you specifically. Maria's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Isabella, I don't know what's happening, but be careful. Valentina Corsini arrived this morning. She never comes here unless she's marking territory. The dining room was a masterpiece of old-world elegance, a table that could seat 20, crystal chandeliers that threw rainbow fractals across walls, hung with paintings I recognized from art history classes I'd taken in another lifetime when college seemed possible. Dante sat at the head of the table, flanked by 4 men I didn't recognize. Valentina occupied the seat to his right, her hand resting possessively on his forearm. But it was the man across from him who made my blood run cold. I knew that face, not from the photographs in Dante's office, but from my own life. Marco, my ex-boyfriend, the reason I'd had to move apartments 3 months ago. His eyes met mine across the room, and something flickered there. Surprise, then calculation, then a smile that made my skin crawl. Ah, the wine, Dante said, his gaze finding me with laser precision. Isabella, pour for our guests. My hands somehow remembered how to function. I moved around the table with the bottle, something Italian and probably older than me, filling crystal glasses with ruby liquid that caught the light like blood. When I reached Marco, his hand shot out, catching my wrist. The wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim. Bella, he said, voice dripping false warmth. What a small world. You two know each other? Dante's question was casual, but I heard the edge beneath it, sharp as a razor. Old friends, Marco said before I could respond. His grip on my wrist tightened. Very close friends. Isn't that right, baby? I tried to pull away. He held firm. Let her go. Dante's voice was quiet, too quiet. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Marco's smile faltered, but he kept his grip. We're just catching up. It's been what? 3 months since you disappeared on me? Since you... I said let her go. Dante stood, the movement liquid and terrifying. Now, this time, Marco released me. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the wine bottle. My apologies, Marco said, but his eyes promised retribution. I didn't realize she was under your protection. She works for me. That's all the protection she needs. Dante moved around the table with predatory grace. He took the wine bottle from my shaking hands, his fingers brushing mine in a touch that felt deliberate. "Isabella, go to the kitchen. You're done for tonight." "But, sir, I haven't finished." "I said go." I went. But not before I caught the look that passed between Dante and Marco. Something primal and violent, a promise of pain wrapped in civilized clothing. The kitchen was chaos. A dozen staff members preparing courses I couldn't name. I found a corner near the industrial refrigerators and tried to steady my breathing. Marco was here. In this house. At Dante Romano's table, the universe had a sick sense of humor. "Miss Chen." One of the guards appeared, the same one from yesterday's hallway. "Mr. Romano wants to see you. His private study. Now?" Now. The private study was different from his office. Smaller, more intimate. Leather chairs faced a fireplace where flames crackled and popped. Bookshelves lined the walls, but these books looked personal, loved, their spines creased from actual reading. Dante stood by the window, his back to me, one hand holding a glass of amber liquid that caught the firelight. "Close the door." I obeyed. The lock clicked with terrible finality. "How do you know Marco Santino?" He didn't turn around. "We dated. Briefly. It ended badly." "Define badly." I didn't want to answer, but something in his posture suggested that silence wasn't an option. He became possessive, controlling. When I tried to end it, he didn't take it well. "Did he hurt you?" The question was so soft I almost didn't hear it. Not physically, but he wanted to. Finally, Dante turned. His eyes were molten in the firelight, twin points of barely controlled rage. I can see it in the way you looked at him. Terror. And something else. Shame, perhaps? "I'm not ashamed of—" "You should be ashamed of him, of his weakness." Dante crossed the room in 3 long strides. Men who hurt women aren't men at all. They're parasites wearing human skin. He was close now. Too close. I could see the pulse beating in his throat, count the individual lashes framing those impossible eyes. "Why does he matter to you?" I asked, finding courage I didn't know I possessed. "Marco, I mean, why is he at your table?" "Business." The word was clipped, final. "He represents certain interests in Brooklyn. Interests I'm acquiring. So you're going to work with him." "I'm going to destroy him." Dante's hand rose, his knuckles brushing my cheek with devastating gentleness. "But first, I'm going to make him watch me take everything he ever thought was his." My breath caught. "I'm not his." "I was never, I know." His thumb traced my lower lip, his eyes tracking the movement with an intensity that made my knees weak. "But he thinks you are, and that's enough." "Enough for what?" His smile was dark, beautiful, and utterly terrifying. "For me to keep you here, close, where I can see you. That's not... You can't just..." "Can I?" His other hand settled on my waist, pulling me against him. I felt the hard planes of his chest, the heat of his body, the thunder of his heartbeat matching my own. "I own this house, Isabella, everyone in it, including you. I'm not property. No." His lips hovered an inch from mine. "You're something far more valuable. You're leverage, bait, and most dangerously," his breath ghosted across my mouth. "You're mine." He kissed me. Not gently, not asking permission. His mouth claimed mine with the same absolute authority he wielded over everything else in his world. Demanding, possessive, overwhelming. His hand tangled in my hair, tilting my head back, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why this was wrong, why I should resist. I kissed him back. God help me. I kissed him back. When he finally pulled away, we were both breathing hard. His eyes burned with something that might have been triumph, or might have been hunger. "Tomorrow you move into the East Wing. Guest suite, you'll have a driver, a security detail, and anything else you need." "What? No. I can't just..." "You can. You will." His thumb stroked my swollen lip. "Because if Marco Santino thinks for 1 second that you're still out there, vulnerable, in that shithole apartment in Queens, he'll come for you. And I can't protect what I can't see. This isn't protection. This is... possession." He smiled. "Yes. Get used to it, Isabella. You're mine now." "And I don't share." The East Wing guest suite was larger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens where fountains whispered secrets to the night. The bed could sleep 4 people comfortably, dressed in sheets that felt like water against skin. A bathroom done in white marble and gold fixtures. A walk-in closet that echoed when I stepped inside. And guards. Always guards. 2 stationed outside my door, rotating every 6 hours like I was something precious that needed protecting, or like I was a prisoner in a very beautiful cage. 3 days had passed since that kiss in Dante's study. 3 days since my life had been upended and reconstructed according to his will. I'd gone back to my apartment once, escorted by 2 of his men, to pack my essentials. The landlord hadn't even blinked when I broke the lease. Apparently, a call from Dante Romano's lawyers carried more weight than a year's contract. Maria avoided my eyes now when we passed in the hallways. The other staff whispered behind their hands. I'd crossed some invisible line, moved from servant to what? Mistress? Prisoner? Pet? I didn't know. And that terrified me more than anything. A knock at my door. Sharp. Authoritative. One of the guards poked his head in. Mr. Romano wants you downstairs. The library. 5 minutes. The library was my favorite room in the entire mansion, a 2-story temple of books with a spiral staircase connecting the levels. Dante stood on the upper level, pulling a volume from a shelf, his reading glasses perched on his nose in a way that made him look almost human. Almost. You read, Dante? I asked, climbing the stairs. The book in his hand was a worn copy of Inferno. My father had a sense of humor. He didn't look up from the pages. Naming his son after the man who documented hell, as if he knew what I'd become. And what have you become? Finally, his eyes met mine over the rims of his glasses, the thing that even hell fears. He wasn't joking. Dante closed the book, setting it aside with care that seemed at odds with his reputation. I have a problem, Isabella, and you're going to help me solve it. What kind of problem? Marco Santino is claiming you're carrying his child. The world tilted. What? That's insane. I haven't seen him in months, and I would never. I know. Dante descended the stairs with measured steps. The timeline doesn't work, but he's telling anyone who'll listen that you ran away when you found out you were pregnant, that you're hiding here, using me to avoid your responsibilities. Rage, hot and bright, flooded through me. That lying piece of careful. Dante's hand caught my chin, tilting my face toward the light streaming through tall windows. Anger makes you careless, and careless women don't survive in my world. I don't care about surviving your world. I care about my reputation, my name. Your reputation? His laugh was bitter. Isabella, the moment you moved into this house, your reputation was forfeit. Everyone already assumes you're warming my bed. Heat crawled up my neck. I know. His thumb traced my jawline, that now familiar touch that made my breath catch. But they don't. And Marco is using that assumption to paint himself as the wronged party, the abandoned father-to-be. So what do? We do nothing. I handle Marco. You. His expression shifted, something calculating moving behind his eyes. You give me leverage. How? Instead of answering, he pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages with a frown that carved lines between his brows. There's a charity gala tomorrow night. Very public, very visible. All the major families will attend. Marco will be there with Valentina. Did I mention they're engaged now? That shouldn't have stung. It did anyway. Congratulations to them. She's using him to get to me. He's using her family connections to expand his territory. It's very transactional. Dante pocketed his phone. You'll attend with me, as my date. That's a terrible idea. It's a brilliant idea. We present a united front. You, radiant at my side, clearly not pregnant with Marco's child. Him, forced to either admit he lied or double down and look like a fool. And Valentina? Let me worry about Valentina. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer. All you need to do is smile, look beautiful, and let everyone see that you belong to me. There was that word again. Belong. I don't belong to anyone, I said. But my voice lacked conviction, don't you? His lips brushed my temple, feather light. Then why did you kiss me back? Why do you shiver when I touch you? Why haven't you run screaming from this house? Because I was an idiot. Because somewhere between fear and fascination, I'd lost my sense of self-preservation. Because when he looked at me like I was the only thing in his universe that mattered, I forgot that men like him destroyed everything they touched. I need this job, I said instead. For my mother. She's sick and the treatments are expensive, I know. Of course he did. He probably knew everything about me by now. Your mother has stage 3 breast cancer. She's at the Monroe Clinic in Newark. They've given her 6 months without aggressive treatment, maybe 18 with. Tears burned behind my eyes. I make it my business to know everything about people in my orbit. His hand cupped my face, surprisingly gentle. As of this morning, her treatment is fully covered. The best oncologists, experimental therapies if needed, whatever gives her the best chance. The tears spilled over. Why would you do that? Because you need it. Because it keeps you here. Because... He paused, something flickering across his face too quickly to read. Because I can. It should have felt like manipulation. It probably was manipulation, but standing there in his library, surrounded by books and bulletproof windows, I couldn't bring myself to care about the why. My mother would live. That was all that mattered. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. His smile held no warmth. Everything has a price, Isabella. And tomorrow night you'll start paying it. The gala was held at the plaza. The ballroom transformed into something from a fairy tale. If fairy tales involved armed security and guests who laundered money for a living. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto marble floors. Ice sculptures melted slowly in corners. Women draped in diamonds and designer gowns circulated like beautiful, dangerous fish. And I was one of them. The dress Dante had sent to my room was a masterpiece. Midnight blue silk that clung to curves I didn't know I had before falling in a waterfall of fabric to the floor. A single diamond on a platinum chain rested against my collarbone. Heels that added 4 inches and made me feel like I was walking on knives. Dante met me at the base of the mansion's grand staircase, looking devastating in a black tuxedo that had definitely been tailored for his body specifically. His eyes traveled over me slowly, possessively, and I felt that look like a physical touch. Perfect, he murmured, offering his arm. They'll eat their hearts out. The car was waiting, a sleek black Mercedes with windows so dark I couldn't see inside until the door opened. 2 more cars fell into formation ahead and behind us as we pulled away. A convoy. Because even attending a charity gala required military-level security. Nervous? Dante asked, his hand finding mine in the dim interior. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture that should have been comforting but felt more like branding. Remember, you're with me. That means you're untouchable. No one will dare approach you without permission. And if Marco tries? Then I'll remind him why crossing me is a death sentence. He wasn't exaggerating. The plaza's entrance was a gauntlet of photographers and reporters, cameras flashing like lightning as couples ascended red-carpeted steps. I recognized faces from tabloids and news broadcasts, politicians, celebrities, people whose names carried weight that could topple governments. And then there was us. The camera flashes intensified as we emerged from the car, questions shouted from all directions, most of which I couldn't parse through the noise. But Dante moved through the chaos like Moses parting the Red Sea, one hand on my lower back, his body a wall between me and the hungry press. Inside, the ballroom was breathtaking. A string quartet played Mozart. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that were more art than food. Conversations hummed at a frequency that suggested power and money and secrets worth killing for. Heads turned as we entered. Conversations paused. A ripple of awareness spread through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Dante felt it too. His hand tightened on my waist, pulling me closer. A clear signal. Mine. Dante, darling. Valentina materialized from the crowd, resplendent in white. Bridal colors, I realized with a sick twist in my stomach. Marco shadowed her, his expression murderous when his eyes found me. And you brought your little charity case. How sweet. Valentina, Dante's voice could have frozen hell itself. You're looking desperate? White? Really? Her smile tightened. It's called elegance, though I wouldn't expect you to recognize it, considering your current company. Careful, Dante said softly, dangerously. You're very close to saying something you'll regret. Marco stepped forward, his hand on Valentina's elbow. Is it true then? You're actually fucking the help? The quartet stopped playing. Silence crashed over the ballroom like a wave. Dante's entire body went still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. Apologize. Now. For what? Stating facts? Marco's smile was ugly. Everyone here knows what she is. What she was to me before you decided to play hero. I was never yours, I said, surprised by the strength in my voice. You're delusional if you think otherwise. Delusional? Marco laughed, sharp and cruel. Sweetheart, I have texts, photos. Evidence that you and I were very much together 3 months ago. Doctored evidence means nothing. Dante's hand moved to his jacket, and suddenly there were guns, so many guns, pointed in our direction as his security detail materialized from the shadows. But feel free to present it. I'd love to watch my lawyers tear you apart. The ballroom had become a pressure cooker. Guests backed away, creating a circle around our little drama. I felt 100 eyes on me, judging, calculating my worth. Valentina grabbed Marco's arm. Not here. Not now. But Marco shook her off, his attention laser-focused on me. Tell them, Bella. Tell them about the baby. My heart stopped. There is no baby. Liar. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist exactly like he had at dinner. You think you can just disappear? Start a new life with him and pretend I don't exist? Dante moved. One moment Marco was gripping my wrist. The next, he was on the floor, Dante's knee on his chest, Dante's hand around his throat. Touch her again, Dante said, his voice barely above a whisper but carrying through the silent ballroom like thunder. And they'll never find your body. Security swarmed, both Dante's men and hotel security, trying to separate them without getting killed in the crossfire. I stood frozen, my wrist throbbing where Marco had grabbed me, my entire body shaking with adrenaline. Valentina appeared at my elbow, her voice low and venomous. Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart. Men like Dante don't keep broken toys for long. Then she was gone, following the security team dragging a cursing Marco toward the exit. Dante stood, straightening his tuxedo jacket with deliberate calm. He turned to me, his eyes searching my face. Are you hurt? I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Good, he offered his hand. Dance with me. What? Everyone's watching. We're going to show them exactly what Marco Santino means to us. His smile was blade sharp, nothing. The quartet had resumed playing, a waltz this time, slow and sweeping. Dante led me to the center of the ballroom, one hand claiming my waist, the other capturing my hand. We moved together, and despite everything, despite the scene and the threats and the guns, my body knew how to follow his lead. You're shaking, he murmured against my hair. He said there's a baby. There isn't. How can you be sure? His hand tightened on my waist. Because if there was, you'd be showing by now. And because Marco Santino is a liar who'll say anything to maintain his fragile ego. We spun, silk and wool moving in perfect synchronization. Around us, other couples slowly returned to the dance floor, the drama receding into gossip that would fuel conversations for weeks. What happens now? I asked. Now? Now everyone knows you're under my protection. Marco can spread whatever lies he wants. But after tonight, no one will believe him. Dante's lips brushed my temple. You're safe, Isabella. I promise. But as we danced among the powerful and the corrupt, I couldn't shake Valentina's words. Broken toys. Was that what I was becoming? And worse, did I even care anymore? The days after the gala blurred together in a haze of luxury and surveillance. Dante had been right. No one questioned my presence at his side anymore. But the protection came with a price I was only beginning to understand. I wasn't allowed to leave the estate without an escort. My phone had been replaced with one of his. More secure, he'd said, though I suspected it was more about monitoring than protection. Even my mother's hospital visits required advance notice and a 3-car motorcade that made her ask questions I couldn't answer. "Isabella, sweetheart, what's really going on?" she'd asked during my last visit, her thin hand gripping mine with surprising strength. The chemo had stolen her hair, her weight, her color, but not her ability to read me like a book. "You show up here with armed men. You're wearing clothes that cost more than our car. And you look what? Scared. And something else. Like you're falling, and you don't know if there's a net at the bottom." She wasn't wrong. I was standing at the window of my suite 2 weeks after the gala when Maria knocked. The first time she'd come to my room since I'd moved to the East Wing. Her expression was guarded, professional. "Mr. Romano wants to see you." The greenhouse. The greenhouse was Dante's private sanctuary, a glass cathedral hidden behind the rose gardens where he grew orchids and other exotic plants that required specific temperatures and obsessive care. I'd only been inside once, escorted by Mrs. Castellano for some forgotten errand. Now I walked there alone, or as alone as one could be with guards trailing at a discreet distance. The air inside was thick, humid, carrying the scent of earth and blooming things. Dante stood at the far end, tending to a rare orchid with surgical precision, his sleeves rolled up, dirt under his fingernails. The sight was so incongruous. This man who ordered deaths like normal people ordered coffee, nurturing something delicate, that I stopped in my tracks. "Close the door," he said without turning. I obeyed. The glass door sealed with a soft click, cutting off the outside world. "Do you know what these are?" He gestured to the orchid, its petals a deep purple that was almost black. "Flowers? Paphiapetalum Rothschildianum." He spoke the Latin like a prayer. "They take 15 years to bloom from seed. 15 years of perfect conditions, constant care, unwavering attention. One mistake, one day of neglect, and they die." His fingers brushed a petal with devastating gentleness. "Some things are worth the patience. Is there a point to this botany lesson?" Finally, he looked at me. His eyes held something I couldn't name. Possession, certainly, but underneath that, something almost vulnerable. "You've been avoiding me. I've been here. In your house. Under your guards. How much more available can I be? Physically present. Emotionally absent." He set down his gardening tools, wiping his hands on a cloth. "You haven't asked me for anything. Haven't tried to leave. Haven't even questioned why you're still here when Marco's lies have been thoroughly discredited. Because I didn't want to know the answer. Because knowing would make this real, would force me to confront what was happening between us. Why am I still here, Dante?" He crossed the distance between us in 3 long strides. "Because I want you here. Because the thought of you out there, vulnerable, makes me want to burn down the entire city until you're safe. Because..." A phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, his expression darkening as he read the message. "We need to go. Now." "Go where?" "The hospital. Your mother." My heart stopped. What happened? She collapsed during treatment. They're stabilizing her, but he was already moving, his hand catching mine, pulling me toward the door. "Come on." The drive to Newark was a blur of traffic violations and red lights that didn't matter when you had diplomatic immunity, or whatever equivalent allowed Dante Romano to operate above the law. I sat in the back of the Mercedes, my hand gripped in his, my mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. "She'll be fine," Dante said, but even he didn't sound convinced. The Monroe Clinic was chaos when we arrived. Doctors rushing, machines beeping, that particular hospital smell of antiseptic and fear. Dr. Patel met us outside the ICU, her expression grave. "Miss Chen, your mother had a severe reaction to the new treatment protocol. Her blood pressure spiked, her heart rate became erratic. We've stabilized her, but..." She glanced at Dante, then back to me. "We need to discuss next steps." "Can I see her?" 5 minutes. "She's sedated, but she might be able to hear you." My mother looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that kept her alive. Her chest rose and fell with mechanical precision. I took her hand, careful of the IV, and felt tears stream down my face. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry, Mom. This is all my fault. If I'd just..." It's not your fault. Dante's voice came from behind me. I'd almost forgotten he was there. The cancer isn't your fault. The treatment complications aren't your fault. But the stress, me disappearing, showing up with guards, all the questions I couldn't answer. Isabella. He moved closer, his hand on my shoulder. Look at me. I turned, meeting his eyes. Your mother is getting the best care available anywhere in the world. Dr. Patel is one of 3 specialists in experimental immunotherapy. The treatment that caused this reaction? It was a Hail Mary because the conventional treatments weren't working. She knew the risks. She chose this. How do you know what she chose? Because I spoke with her, last week. His admission hung between us. She wanted to meet the man who was taking care of her daughter. Her words. You talked to my mother? About what? About you. About us. About whether my intentions were honorable. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. She's remarkably fierce for someone undergoing chemotherapy. Reminded me of you. What did you tell her? The truth. His hand cupped my face, thumb wiping away tears. That I'm many things. Violent, ruthless, probably damned. But that I would die before I let anything happen to you. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He pulled me against him, and I went, burying my face in his chest, letting myself break because no one else was watching. Your mother made me promise something. She made me swear that if anything happened to her, I'd keep you safe. That I'd make sure you finished your degree, had a real life, didn't get swallowed by my world. You can't promise that. Your world has already swallowed me whole. Then I'll pull you back out. His arms tightened around me, whatever it takes. Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway, clearing her throat softly. Miss Chen? Your mother is waking up. She's asking for you. My mother's eyes were hazy with medication, but they focused when she saw me. Her hand squeezed mine weakly. Baby girl, she whispered, her voice rough from intubation. Stop crying. I'm not dead yet. I laughed through tears. Don't even joke about that. Who's joking? Her gaze shifted past me to where Dante stood. You. Come here. Dante approached the bed with a wariness I'd never seen in him before. You hurt my daughter, my mother said, each word an effort. And I will haunt you from beyond the grave. Understand? Yes, ma'am. Good. She coughed, and I grabbed the water cup, helping her sip through a straw. Now both of you listen. Isabella, stop blaming yourself for things you can't control. Dante, stop trying to protect the world and focus on protecting her. And both of you, figure out what this is before someone gets killed. Mom? I'm serious. I've seen the news. The Santino boy claiming paternity. The scene at the gala. Valentina Corsini making threats. Her fingers tightened on mine. I don't have the energy to worry about you while fighting cancer. So whatever this thing between you two is, define it, claim it, or end it. But stop existing in limbo. She was right. We both knew it. Dr. Patel ushered us out minutes later, promising updates every few hours. In the hallway, Dante and I stood in heavy silence, the weight of my mother's words pressing down like atmosphere. She's not wrong, I finally said. No, she's not. Dante ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of uncertainty. Isabella, His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. I need to take this. He stepped away, his voice low and harsh as he spoke in rapid Italian. I caught fragments. Marco's name, something about a shipment, coordinates. When he returned, his face was carved from stone. We need to go back, now. What's wrong? Marco made a move. Stupid, desperate, but potentially deadly. He was already walking toward the exit, his security team materializing around us. He's claiming that you're not just pregnant with his child. He's saying I kidnapped you, that you're being held against your will. That's insane. Insane or not, he's filed a complaint with the police. Formal charges. They're requesting a wellness check. My stomach dropped. Can they do that? They can try. We emerged into the parking lot. The car's already running, doors open, which means we need to get ahead of this. Publicly, definitively, in a way that leaves no room for interpretation. How? He helped me into the Mercedes, sliding in beside me. The door closed, sealing us in tinted privacy as the convoy pulled away from the hospital. You're going to give a statement, on camera, to the press, explaining that you're exactly where you want to be, that Marco's claims are harassment from an ex who can't accept that you've moved on. Moved on to what exactly? I turned to face him. Dante, what are we? Your mother asked, mine asked, and I'm asking now. Am I your employee? Your guest? Your prisoner? Your... Mine. The word was absolute, final. You're mine, Isabella. In every way that matters. That's not an answer. Then let me be clearer. He shifted, his body caging mine against the leather seat, his hands on either side of my head. I want you in my bed, in my life, in my world. I want to wake up to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want every man who looks at you to know that touching you means death. I want... He stopped, jaw clenched, fighting for control. What? I whispered. What do you want? Everything. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath ragged. I want everything you can give me and more. And I know that makes me selfish, possessive, probably insane. But I stopped pretending otherwise the moment I saw you on your knees in my hallway, invisible to everyone but me. My heart hammered against my ribs. This is crazy. I know. You're dangerous. I know. I should run as far from you as possible. I know. His lips brushed mine, feather-light. But you won't. Because you feel it too, this thing between us. It's not logical, not safe, probably not healthy, but it's real. He was right. God help me, he was right. Not the tentative, confused kiss from his study. This was deliberate, claiming, a choice made with open eyes. My hands fisted in his hair, pulling him closer, and he groaned against my mouth, his control finally shattering. We broke apart when the car stopped, both breathing hard. We're home, the driver said through the partition, his voice carefully neutral. Dante's eyes burned into mine. Tonight. After the press conference, after we deal with Marco's bullshit. Tonight, we finish this conversation. Agreed? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. He straightened his tie, his mask of control sliding back into place. Now let's go destroy Marco Santino's credibility once and for all. The press conference was scheduled for 8 p.m. in the mansion's formal parlor. Dante's PR team had assembled a full media circus. Cameras, reporters, microphones arranged in a semicircle that made my skin crawl. I wore a simple dress, navy blue, modest, professional. Dante had insisted on visible proof I wasn't pregnant, wasn't being held against my will. The diamond necklace he'd given me for the gala rested against my collarbone, a silent claim of ownership. The questions came fast and brutal. Miss Chen, is it true you're carrying Marco Santino's child? No. I have never been pregnant. Why would he make such a claim? You'd have to ask him. Perhaps he's confused about the timeline. Or perhaps he's simply lying. Are you being held here against your will? I looked directly into the camera. I am exactly where I choose to be. And your relationship with Dante Romano? Dante's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Personal, I said firmly. And none of your business. The conference ended 20 minutes later. As the media filed out, Dante's lawyer approached with a tablet showing social media already exploding with our interview. Marco's story is falling apart, he reported. His own associates are distancing themselves. And Valentina Corsini just released a statement ending their engagement. Dante's smile was cold. Good. Make sure he knows that every lie, every claim, every breath he wastes on this crusade will cost him. Territory, respect, everything he's built. Already done, sir. When we were finally alone, Dante pulled me into his study. Our study now, the place where this had all begun. You did well tonight, he said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. I told the truth. That's what made it effective. He handed me a glass, his fingers lingering on mine. Isabella, about what I said in the car. Don't. I set down the glass. Don't take it back. Don't qualify it. Just don't. I wasn't going to. He moved closer, backing me against his desk. I was going to ask you something. What? His hand slid into his pocket, and for one insane moment I thought. But instead of a ring, he pulled out a key. Simple, silver, modern. "This is to my private quarters, 3rd floor, north wing. No guards, no cameras, just me." He pressed it into my palm. "I'm not asking you to move in, not yet. But I'm asking you to have access. To know that you're welcome. That when you're ready..." I kissed him, cutting off the words with action. The whiskey glass fell from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor, but neither of us noticed. His hands gripped my waist, lifting me onto the desk, papers scattering as he stepped between my legs. "Isabella," he breathed against my neck. "If we do this, no more talking." My fingers worked at his tie, his buttons. "We've talked enough." He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. "Once we cross this line, there's no going back. You understand that?" "I don't want to go back." Something fierce and possessive flared in his expression. "Then you're mine. Completely. Say it. I'm yours. Again. I'm yours, Dante. Completely." He claimed my mouth with a kiss that tasted like victory and surrender all at once. I woke wrapped in Egyptian cotton, and Dante's arms, sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize. His bedroom, our bedroom now I supposed, was all dark wood and masculine simplicity. So different from the ornate guest suite I'd occupied. Personal. Real. He was already awake, watching me with an intensity that should have been unnerving, but instead felt like coming home. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep and something darker. "Morning." I traced the scar on his shoulder. A puckered line that spoke of violence survived. "How long have you been awake?" "An hour. Maybe more. I like watching you sleep. You look peaceful." His fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare shoulder, like the world hasn't touched you yet. The world has definitely touched me. Not like I have. His smile was wicked, possessive. Not like I will again. Heat flooded through me, memories of last night written on my skin in the form of marks his mouth had left. We'd christened his desk, then his couch, then finally made it to his bed as dawn painted the sky pink. My phone buzzed from somewhere on the floor, the new one Dante had given me. He reached down, retrieving it with easy grace, his expression darkening as he read the screen. "Marco's been arrested." I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest. For what? Fraud, extortion, making false statements to police. Dante handed me the phone showing a news article with Marco's mugshot. And that's just the beginning. My lawyers are preparing a defamation suit. By the time we're done, he'll wish he'd never spoken your name. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Will it ever really be over? With men like Marco? Not until they're either broken or dead. Dante's hand cupped my face, tilting it toward him. "But he can't touch you. Not anymore. Not ever." A knock at the door interrupted us. "Sir?" One of the guards, his voice carefully neutral. "Dr. Patel is calling. It's about Miss Chen's mother." My heart stopped. Dante was already moving, pulling on pants, tossing me his shirt. I fumbled with the buttons as he answered his phone, his expression unreadable. "Yes, I understand. We'll be there within the hour." He ended the call, his eyes finding mine. "She's awake, fully conscious, vitals stable. Dr. Patel says the crisis has passed." Relief crashed over me so hard I nearly collapsed. Dante caught me, his arms steel bands holding me upright. "Get dressed," he said gently. "Let's go see your mother." The hospital room felt different this time. Sunlight instead of fluorescent urgency. My mother sat propped up against pillows, color returning to her cheeks, arguing with a nurse about her breakfast options. "I don't care if it's doctor approved. It tastes like cardboard soaked in sadness," she was saying as we entered. "Mom." She turned, her face lighting up despite the exhaustion lining it. "Baby girl. And you brought your... what do I call him? Boyfriend sounds too teenage. Lover sounds too scandalous for a Catholic mother to say." "Dante is fine, Mrs. Chen," Dante said. His usual commanding presence somehow gentled in her presence. "Dante, then." She gestured to the chairs beside her bed. "Sit. Both of you, we need to talk." Dr. Patel had followed us in, tablet in hand. The immunotherapy is working. Better than we hoped, actually. The initial reaction was severe, but your body is responding well to the treatment. If this trajectory continues, we're looking at full remission within 6 months. 6 months. The number hung in the air like a miracle. That's incredible, I breathed, gripping my mother's hand. It's expensive, my mother corrected, looking at Dante. Which brings me to what we need to discuss. I can't keep accepting your charity. It's not charity, Dante interrupted. It's investment. In what? In Isabella's peace of mind, in your health, in... He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. In family. My mother's eyes sharpened. Family? I love your daughter, Mrs. Chen. The words fell from his lips with the same absolute certainty he used when ordering deaths. I know it's fast. I know my world is dangerous. I know I'm probably the last man you'd choose for her. But I love her. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of her. The room went silent. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Isabella? My mother's attention shifted to me. How do you feel about this declaration? I looked at Dante. This complicated, dangerous, impossibly gentle man who'd somehow become my entire world in the space of a few weeks, who'd protected me, claimed me, challenged me, who looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. I love him too, I said, the truth simple and terrifying. God help me, I do. My mother studied us both for a long moment. Then she smiled, small, knowing, a little sad. Your father would have hated this. I know. He would have said you deserve someone safe. Someone normal. Someone who doesn't have armed guards and enemies who file false police reports. I know that too. But he also would have recognized what I see right now. She squeezed my hand. Someone who would burn down the world to keep you safe. Someone who looks at you like you hung the moon. That's worth more than safety, baby girl. That's worth everything. Tears streamed down my face. Dante's hand found mine, our fingers interlacing. So you have my blessing, my mother continued. But Dante? If you hurt her, cancer won't get to kill me because I'll come back as a vengeful ghost and make your life hell. Understood, ma'am? Good. Now get out, both of you. I'm tired and you're both disgustingly in love. It's exhausting to watch. 3 months later, I stood in Dante's greenhouse, our greenhouse, watching him tend to his orchids with that same obsessive care. The Paphiopedilum Rothschildianum he'd shown me had finally bloomed, its dark purple petals unfurling like secrets revealed. My mother was in remission. The doctors called it a miracle. Dante called it stubbornness. I called it grace. Marco Santino had disappeared. Not dead, Dante assured me, but thoroughly destroyed. His territory absorbed by Dante's organization, his reputation in tatters. Last I'd heard, he was working construction in Arizona, as far from New York as he could run. Valentina had married someone else, a banker from Milan who'd never questioned why she flinched at certain names. And me? I'd enrolled in classes. Business management, Dante had suggested. Someone needs to legitimize my empire eventually. Might as well be you. You know I'm going to actually try to make your businesses legal, right? I'd warned him. I'm counting on it. Now, watching him work, I felt complete in a way I'd never experienced before. Not the completion that came from another person filling your gaps, but the completion that came from finding someone who challenged you to be whole on your own. You're staring, Dante said without looking up. I'm admiring. There's a difference? One is passive. One is active appreciation. He set down his tools, turning to face me fully. Come here. I crossed to him, settling into his arms like I'd been made to fit there. His hand splayed across my stomach, still flat, but not for long. We'd found out 2 weeks ago, an accident born from passion and poor timing and maybe something that wanted to exist despite logic. Dr. Patel had confirmed it yesterday. 8 weeks, healthy, due in late spring. Have you thought about what you want to tell people? I asked. The truth. His hand pressed gently against where our child grew. That you're mine. That this baby is ours. That anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Very diplomatic. I'm many things, Isabella. Diplomatic isn't one of them. He turned me in his arms, his expression serious. But I meant what I said. This baby, you, Us. This is real. This is forever. I don't do temporary. Good. I reached into my pocket, pulling out a small box, because I don't either. His eyes widened as I opened it, revealing a simple platinum band. No diamonds, no ostentation, just solid metal engraved with coordinates. The exact location where I'd first entered his office, where everything had begun. Isabella. I know you're probably planning some elaborate proposal. Knowing you, it involves fireworks and possibly international incidents. But I don't want elaborate. I took his hand, sliding the ring onto his finger. I just want you. Forever. Starting now. For the first time since I'd known him, Dante Romano looked speechless. Then he laughed, real, genuine, joyful, and kissed me hard enough to make the greenhouse spin. You constantly surprise me, he said against my lips. I plan for everything, control everything, and you just disrupt it all. Is that a yes? That's an absolutely, eternally, irrevocably yes. His hand cupped my face. But Isabella? I'm still doing a proper proposal, with fireworks and possibly international incidents. I wouldn't expect anything less. We stood there as the sun set, casting golden light through glass walls, surrounded by flowers that took 15 years to bloom, building something that would take a lifetime to perfect. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dinner this Sunday. Tell him to bring wine. Nothing too expensive. I don't trust anything that costs more than my car. Dante read over my shoulder, smiling. Your mother terrifies me more than my enemies. As she should. Think she'll be happy about the baby? She'll be thrilled. And insufferable about being right. About what? She told me the day we met that I'd marry you. Said she could see it in the way you looked at me. Smart woman. The smartest. We locked up the greenhouse as twilight deepened, walking back toward the mansion hand in hand. Guards shadowed our path, but for once I didn't mind. They weren't jailers. They were protection for something precious. Inside, Mrs. Castellano was directing the evening staff with her usual efficiency. She caught sight of us, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. Dinner in 20 minutes, Mr. Romano. I've prepared Miss Chen's favorites. Thank you, Mrs. Castellano, Dante paused. And I believe congratulations are in order. She raised an eyebrow. Sir? Isabella and I are engaged and expecting. For a moment, the unflappable housekeeper looked genuinely shocked. Then her face broke into the first real smile I'd ever seen from her. About time, sir. About time. Word spread through the household like wildfire. By the time we sat down to dinner, champagne, sparkling cider for me, had materialized, along with a cake that Maria swore she just happened to have made. The staff who'd once avoided my eyes now offered genuine congratulations. I'd crossed from outsider to family, from maid to mistress of the house, from invisible to essential. That night, lying in Dante's arms, I thought about the girl who'd been on her knees scrubbing floors 3 months ago, who'd been invisible, exhausted, running on empty in desperation. She was gone now, transformed not by wealth or status, but by being seen, being chosen, being loved. What are you thinking? Dante asked, his fingers trailing through my hair. That I should probably hate you for completely upending my life. Probably. But I don't. I can't. I turned to face him. You terrified me. You still terrify me sometimes. But you also made me feel like I mattered, like I was worth protecting, worth fighting for. You are. His hand settled on my stomach again, that protective gesture that was becoming habit. You're worth everything. Even going legitimate? He groaned. You're really going to make me pay taxes, aren't you? Every single one. The things I do for love. Outside, the city sprawled in all directions, millions of lives intersecting, stories beginning and ending, people finding and losing each other in the chaos. But here, in this room, in this moment, there was only us. 2 people who shouldn't have worked, a maid and a mafia boss, vulnerability and violence, innocence and corruption, but somehow, against all logic, we did work. We fit. I love you, I whispered into the darkness. I know. Dante replied, pulling me closer. I've known since the moment you looked up at me in my office. Sugar scattered between us, terror and attraction warring in your eyes. I knew then. You were mine. You just didn't know it yet. Possessive. Always. Obsessive. Absolutely. Protective to the point of insanity. Unquestionably. His lips brushed my temple. And you love me anyway. I love you because of it, not despite it. We fell asleep tangled together, the future stretching before us. Complicated, dangerous, probably chaotic. There would be challenges, enemies. Dante's world didn't simply disappear because we'd fallen in love. But we'd face it together. The girl who'd been invisible had found someone who'd never stop seeing her. And the man who'd controlled everything had found something he couldn't control, wouldn't control. Someone who challenged him, changed him, made him want to be better. Not a fairy tale. Fairy tales didn't involve mafia bosses and death threats, but it was ours. Real, imperfect, and absolutely worth fighting for. In the morning, I'd wake up and start planning our wedding. Dante would go back to running his empire. My mother would continue her treatment. Our baby would keep growing, safe and loved. Life would continue, messy and beautiful in ours. But tonight, we simply existed. Two souls who'd found each other against impossible odds, building something that would last. Forever started now,